Okay, so imagine the year is 1993, and what big game came out that year? Well, that was Doom on the PC by ID Software. Now, I think that was one of the first games that really defined the FPS genre. That and Wolfenstein would be the two that defined it. And, well, what followed Doom? Ports, actually, yeah. When all the ports came out, a lot of them were just bad. Now, I don't own all the ports, but I own a few of them. I'm going to talk about the ones I own. The ports I own is the PlayStation version, the Nintendo 64 version, which can be considered its own game because it's nothing like Doom on PC or anywhere else. And I'm going to talk about the Game Boy Advance version, and I'm just going to talk about the PC version itself, okay? So, we'll start with the PC version. Now, basically with the PC version, the community that still makes levels and modifies the game is amazing. I'm surprised to this day that it holds up. I still make levels myself because it's one of my favourite games. Okay, first of all, I'm going to talk about the PlayStation port of Doom. Now, this came out not long after the PlayStation was released, I believe. And for the PlayStation, this is probably the most definitive port of the game that's out there, because there's a few little factors. For one, you get Doom 1 and 2, which is about 60 levels. No, it's not that, it's probably about 50 something. It had nearly all the levels from Doom 1. I think it was missing 3 from the 3rd episode, and it had nearly all the levels of Doom 2, surprisingly up before Gotcha. I think the level before Gotcha was the last one, then it was the final boss. Now, I'm going to try and talk about the port. There's differences between the PC and the port. Now, this is probably the most closest version of the PC version there is. For one, there's differences which are the lighting. There's coloured lighting that they've done, which is pretty dynamic, and it actually looks really well on the PlayStation. And another thing, one thing that I didn't like about this port was the music. They took the music out. Now, the mid-eye was awesome to listen to, but I have to say, I did like the fact that they put music on. They put this atmospheric music on, which really sets the tone, because Doom was originally meant to be a scary horror game, as one of the early demos says. There's not really anything added except a new monster. Well, it's not really new, it's just a spectre. I think they call it the Nightmare Spectre. It doesn't actually appear much at all, it's just like a transparent greenish purplish coloured spectre, which is probably a bit harder to kill. There's not really much, no point really of putting that in, because it's just basically a spectre. They actually added a few bonus levels. The levels that they include were Club Doom, the Mansion, and I think it was called, there was another one and it was called, I think it was the Forest or something. No, it was the Marshes was the other one they included, which actually, the Marshes is actually a really good level in my opinion. They also changed some of the level structures. For instance, with the level spawning vats, they changed up really a lot. They changed the starting spot, they totally changed the look at the level. The level looks really techy and hellish, and now they've changed it to that weird stone and wood style textures. And the levels, there's actually a few added boss levels, there's actually a few other levels that are added in Doom, which were like fan-made levels, and one of them I really hate that level, so yeah. So as for the gameplay is pretty much the same as Doom. I find little bits of lag now and then, but it's actually really good for its port, because the Saturn version, which is basically nearly identical to the PlayStation port, is probably the worst port because it's so slow and impossible to play. So yeah, the Doom PlayStation 1 port of Doom actually holds up pretty well to this day, and I still play it quite often. And if you happen to be able to get a copy and you're a fan of Doom, I'd recommend it. And if you're a big fan of Doom, I'd just really recommend getting this one, because it's pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to talk about another port of Doom. This other port is the Final Doom, which was released on PlayStation also. Now, this was the only port of Final Doom. No other console had Final Doom, because by the time Final Doom came out, Doom was looking pretty, how do I say it, outdated. And I still to this day don't understand why they released this port, because it's not very good in my opinion. there's a few problems with this port. One, Doom's just outdated for the PlayStation. This is about 2 or 3 years after the first Doom port came out. Now, most gamers would probably have moved on to Quake, Blood, or Duke Nukem by then, so what's the point really? No one's going to buy it unless they're a die-hard fan, which I don't even know if they would have bought it either, because Final Doom is still debated to be bad. Honestly, I don't really like Final Doom. I think it was just a couple of kids that made it. It really shouldn't have been sold. I reckon it should have just been on the net. Like, it was good, but no, I don't really think it should have been on PlayStation. Oh, okay. Now, with Final Doom, when you bought it on PC, you'd get 32 levels in 2 episodes. So in the end, you'd get 64 levels. Now, that would be pretty impressive if they'd done that on PlayStation. But what happened? They also chucked the Master Levels in. Now, the Master Levels was a really good expansion. I really highly recommend checking out the Master Levels on PC. They're great levels to play. This, you'd think, well, there's 21 levels on Master Levels, and the 2 episodes of Final Doom equals 64 levels there. So, in the end, that's about 85 levels, am I right? And that would be pretty amazing, but no. What do you get? You get about 30 levels. So that's not even half of Plutonia. That's not even half of the TNT Evolution or Evolution, whatever you want to call it. And that's probably not even half of the Master levels. And most of the levels they included were basically the easy ones. They didn't include some of the really hard levels like Go To It, Cyber Den, Off Plutonia Experiment. They didn't put any of the hard ones from Master levels on, like Black Tower, Teeth, and Trapped on Titan, and they didn't put any of the hard levels from Evolution on, so it's really easy. It's pretty mediocre. I can't believe they'd actually do this port, but I actually own this port, and I'd have to say that, nah, it's nothing. Like, in the first Doom port, you got the Cyber Demon in quite a lot of levels, but now the Cyber Demon's not there in a lot of levels. It only appears as the final boss. And the final boss in the game of Doom 1 was the Spider Mastermind. So, how does that make sense? The Spider Mastermind's easier to kill than the Cyber Demon. I don't care if you're going to debate me on that, but I believe that's true. So, why are we putting the Cyber Demon in, which 4 of them at least appeared in Doom on the PlayStation? How does that even make sense, honestly? And another thing, when you have the enemy parade at the end of the game, the Baron of Hell appears in the parade, but the Baron of Hell is nowhere present in Final Doom. You can look all you want, but I have played the games over and over on all the difficulties, ultra-violent, whatnot, and it's not there. So, yeah, and a lot of other monsters don't even appear much.